This is Jean Watts, and this is Love in 60 Seconds.
We have been married for over 20 years.
And in that time, we have learned a few things that we'd like to share with you.
So if you're single, newlyweds, or seasoned in marriage, we think you will enjoy the upcoming program.
Absolutely. And we want you to like, engage, share, and do all of those wonderful things that we do on Instagram, Facebook, and every other social media outlets. Send us DMs. We want to hear from you.
This is
Love in 60 Seconds.
60 seconds. Love in 60. Love in 60 seconds. 60 seconds.
Hey everybody, good evening. This is Frederick and Jean Watts, and this is Love in 60 Seconds. It's good to see you this evening.
Hello, everyone. Welcome all of those that are coming in on both Instagram and Facebook. We got a really interesting topic tonight. We hope you all had a great weekend. We had a good weekend. It was a full week last week, but really good weekend. I had a really enjoyable time yesterday. Went out bike riding and enjoyed the city of Detroit.
Good evening to the Moores. Angela Moores, good to see you this evening. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Hey,
Twy, how are you? We're waiting for everybody to come in, and those of you guys that are watching on Instagram, God bless you. It's good to see you.
Yeah.
We got an awesome topic tonight. We're not gonna belabor the time.
But go ahead and share though, and hit some hearts. Share it with some people that you think that will benefit from the program tonight. We're going to talk about some really wonderful tools that you can use. But we're going to talk about some things that being built differently. I'm not built like that, or I've heard that so many times when people talk about their significant other, talk about their spouses. My spouse does this, but I'm not built like that. Or my spouse's family does this, I'm not built like that. So we're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to talk about those challenges and kind of get into some ways that people handle those things in relationship. And it can be difficult. It can get kind of rough. So I want to get into it. We're going to talk about it. And again, like I said, share. And we got a new producer tonight.
Yep. Shout out to our son, Frederick. The fourth, he's helping us facilitate. He's our moderator. So as always, if you're on Instagram, please hit those hearts and likes and continue to share. And if you actually are on Facebook or YouTube with us tonight, please engage with us. We want to hear your topics, hear your comments, and hear what you have to say as we talk about this topic. So if you can put that on the screen, our topic tonight is I'm just built different. And so
should be differently, but that's okay.
Different. Well,
that's okay.
And so, what does that mean as far as how does that affect us in relationships? It means?
Being built different. So, for example, it was saying that I'm built differently. So say you are a type of person that your family is always over your house, always in your business, always doing something. I won't say in your business, but just always in your space. And then you come from a family that it is not common for people to be around your space like that. So, you got two different types of backgrounds, two different types of upbringings, and you have that conflict that comes in because one person's like, I don't understand why you don't want my mama coming around. Right. I don't understand why you don't want my sister coming around staying at the house all the time. And the other person's like, no, it's my house. I don't want to be around. I'm built different. Like I have different upbringing, different values, different experiences that make me a different type of person. Right. So, yeah.
But we say, hey, you're one in marriage, but now we're saying, well, we're different.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. It's because your childhood experiences, the way your family interacted before you engaged and became one in marriage affects your behavior and affects patterns in your life. So, a lot of times the way that you'll handle conflict, the way that you will handle grief, the way that you'll handle happiness, the way that you handle all these things will be different than your partner based on their experiences.
Yes.
And the way that they grew up. So you can't negate if somebody has had a relationship with their parent that might have been positive or negative, you have to include those relationships when you're dealing with issues inside your marriage.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's another thing. It's always important, for those of us that have been married 1 year, too. That's what dating is all for, to vet these things. You got to find out if, what happens if that person, your spouse, didn't have a good relationship with their siblings or with their parents.
Right.
That's going to affect how they relate to you in certain areas. So you need to know that and make good decisions, when you're dating, to see if this is the person that you can be equally yoked with.
And not only that, but it's going to also affect how your children come up and how they relate in the world. So it's this is a serious business. So we want to get into it tonight. We're going to talk about some ways to get actually there are some unhealthy lifestyles or love styles or love patterns that we want to talk about tonight, and we want to kind of deal with those unhealthy love styles. We all know, and we've heard a number of times about love languages and things like that. And if you don't know your spouse's love language, please get to know it. If you knew your spouse's love language, or you don't know your love language, understand what those are. And there's 5 love languages. We already know, what those love languages are. If not, go back and look at those, or you can Google it. But those 5 love languages, understand how you receive love, understand how your spouse receives love. Very true. Once you do that, that'll help you in your relationship in relating. But we want to get into the root of those unhealthy love styles. Okay. And this is not necessarily love languages, but it's styles of how you love, and these ones are unhealthy. So you want to identify them in yourself, and you want to also identify them maybe in other people, and make sure that you are not falling into that, and make sure that you are, if you are in it, and if you're guilty of it, that you fix it, because it's not healthy, and it perpetuates, because it comes from the way that our experiences when we were brought up. It really, really does.
And it's something that you may not even know, because like we said before, that it is something that you've been raised on or dealt with, or may not recognize, because it is something that may have affected you from childhood or previous relationships. So this love style, the reason it may be unhealthy is because you might not have the effective measure to address it. And that's what we're going to do tonight. Make sure that you realize, when you're dealing with loving your spouse, when you're dealing with communicating and interacting with your spouse, your children, and your family, that you don't incorporate these characteristics in your problem solving and in your relationships. So the first one tonight is the avoider. As the unhealthy lifestyle, and people with this lifestyle or love style, tend to often come from performance-based homes. And those people have encouraged independence and things of that nature. And expressions of feelings and needs has sort of been overlooked, I guess, a little bit.
So basically, though, the avoider, even though it's a performance-based homes, are not necessarily performance-based rewards are not necessarily bad. So it means if you do something good, you're going to get a good reward. If you do something good, you're going to get a positive outcome. But sometimes performance-based is basically like, if you don't do something good, then you don't get my love.
Correct.
So that's the part that we want to deal with as far as the avoider.
And they also avoid emotions, because they don't tend to express themselves. So how do you know if you're you've already said it, but what would be a good scenario of a person that is loving this this lifestyle, or this who's a avoider? What's the example?
Avoider is somebody who does not again, express their emotions adequately. They don't like to talk about things. They don't like conflict. They don't like to get to the bottom of things. They are the type of person that just doesn't want to engage and doesn't want to deal with stuff. Like you can't talk to them about nothing. You can't talk to them about nothing. You know what I'm saying? You can't talk to them about anything that's serious, because they're going to avoid the conflict. They're going to avoid the confrontation. They're going to avoid getting, into it with you. Right. So what are some of the bad things, or what would you say that
So that avoider normally is a person that maybe never really bonded with their family unit, so it wasn't close to their parents. And usually it's both of them. It's not, well, it just wasn't close to your mom or dad, just wasn't close, and so there's a difference between sometimes like independence and distance. We have all our children are independent in certain ways and some more extreme than others, but they're not distant. And so when you're distant and you do that as a child or have been brought up like that, then you can be distant when you have conflict in your home, and just want to avoid it, and shut down. And it was interesting because, even Jesus gave us an example in the Garden of Gethsemane. He showed emotion, in his prayers, and in the time that he was struggling, because that emotion is basically, if you don't have emotion, then you can't really grow, because you can't relate the things that you need to have a successful resolution and a successful relationship.
Yeah, and an avoider doesn't necessarily mean that you are a person that that is like not always talking to a family member, because you may always talk to their mother, they may always talk to their brother or whomever it is, but they are not talking about nothing. You know what I'm saying? They're not talking. They're not talking about anything emotional, anything feeling, anything like that. And you got to watch it with, with children. You know what I'm saying? Making sure that you, like I used to tell my kids when they were little, use your words. You know what I'm saying? Do not be just angry. Tell me what it is that's making you angry. Tell me why you're angry. Tell me what you want to feel and what you're feeling, what you want to feel, and what you want me to do about it. Or what do you think I can do about it to help you in this situation? And then what do you think you can do about it?
That's good.
So, but an avoider may not ever have, they don't want to ever have those conversations. So
that's true. So how do you know if you are a avoider? And the good thing about it is that if you figure this out, that's me, or, it's just something. Practice makes perfect. The more that you continue to share your feelings, even though it may be challenging at first, it'll get comfortable. And it's something that you have to practice with your spouse. I gotta have this conversation. I gotta talk to you about my feelings. I have to go out of my comfort zone to express how I feel. And the more that you do that and you're able to recognize it, then it gets easier to communicate with your spouse. Because our feelings pretty much tell us what we need. And if you're not able to share your feelings with your spouse, then your spouse can't give you what you need.
And so you're empty.
And you're empty. And so you got to be able to recognize that. And then you have to be able to share that.
All right. And so the next one is the pleaser.
Good.
This one is also surprisingly, a person that avoids conflict. A pleaser, avoids conflict. They don't want to talk about anything that's going to stir up any mess. So this person likely grew up in a home where if anything popped off, their parents were just overreactors. So they're a pleaser. So they just try to keep everything just calm. Don't get out of hand. Don't do anything so that and then always answer, okay, I'm fine. You ask, oh, how you doing? Or what's going on? I'm good.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Everything's good. No, I'm okay. I'm good. How, and they want to avoid conflict, even though they're clearly not okay, clearly not, but they want to be pleased because they don't want to have any conflict. They don't want the other person to be angry. And likely they grew up not wanting their parent or whatever, to be angry in a situation.
And when you do that, then as an adult or in your relationship, you're not able to be honest about how you feel.
Absolutely.
And then So then if you're not able to be honest on how you feel, then it's hard for you to address conflict, address problems. And and that's not good, because it's not giving your spouse a fair chance to understand how you're feeling.
Yeah.
And when you don't communicate that, and when you don't share that, then that could put you in a rabbit hole. And then the things that you really need from your spouse, you're not able to get, and you may even blame them, but you're the one that's not telling them what you need.
Yeah. So,
it's very important that if you are a pleaser, to make sure that conflict resolution is good. It's good to resolve your issues.
Absolutely.
But you definitely don't want to run from them.
No, you don't want to run from your issues, and you want to be able to talk. talking is healthy.
Yeah.
Talking and getting to the bottom of what you're dealing with is healthy. All right. So next,
I think Angela even said avoiding a topic makes my blood pressure go up.
It does, because
It
like,
does.
okay, we not gonna talk about this.
Mhm.
We're just not gonna talk about it. We're just gonna like, that's where the term the elephant in the room comes from. Like, we're not gonna discuss the elephant in the room. Are we kidding here? Is this what we're doing? But yes, you want to be able to discuss those things, and it's hard to get somebody who is a pleaser or a what was the first one again? A pleaser or a avoider to talk about things. But those, in order to have a healthy relationship, you got to talk about stuff. As a kid, you got to talk about stuff. As an adult, you got to talk about stuff, so you don't grow up. Do it as a kid, so you don't grow up and be a weird adult. You know what I'm saying? An adult that's not gonna talk. I'm not saying you're weird, but with habits that are unhealthy. You know what I'm saying? So the next one, though, is a vacillator. And this one is really interesting. And I wanted to read something about a vacillator. Children of parents who connect in sporadic and unpredictable ways may become vacillators. These kids get just enough connection to make them desire more, which leads to wanting and waiting and wondering when their parents might show them some attention again. As they wait, they become hypersensitive to signs of connection and rejection. The long periods of waiting make their vacillation it makes that person feel unsafe, misunderstood, alone, and or abandoned. So basically, this is saying that it's kind of like, for example, like if you have a kid who has one parent that lives outside the home, and that parent comes and picks them up maybe once a month when they really should pick them up once a week. But then they have a great time. They go to the ball game. They do all kinds of stuff that one time. And then they're waiting to try to get that connection again. They're thinking of that person, well, I'm going to come this time, and then they don't show up, or I'm going to do this, and then they don't show up. That causes that person to be on emotional ups and downs, and they vacillate, which is the term vacillator, back and forth.
That's good. And usually, unfortunately, a vacillator will blame their spouse for their issues or their problems because, like you said, they're going back and forth because they give you mixed messages. They're happy one day and they're sad the next day. They say, come here, and then they tell you to go away.
Exactly.
They do all those things, and then they believe that they can't make you happy, and then they believe you can't make them happy. And then it's really, sometimes people have idealistic expectations in relationships, and then when they don't get those expectations, they have resentment.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it's angry resentment, and so and it's really not you, it's them. But you know what I'm saying?
But they project it.
They project it onto you. Yeah, they project it onto you, or you project it onto them if you're that personality type. So, anyways, that's again a vacillator person that's kind of on both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. So, and if your spouse is one, or even if you are one, how do you correct that, or how do you acknowledge that you are that? Is making sure that you don't have expectations that are unrealistic. Yeah. And if you expect your spouse to hop on their left foot all day, that's an unrealistic expectation. But if you desire for them to hop around the bedroom one time on their left foot, you explain that to them and say what you like. But you don't want to make sure that you don't have mood swings or things. And usually that's because in your past, there's been some type of issue of abandonment or non-connecting with whatever you thought was important. So making sure that if you are a person that is a vacillator, make sure that you don't get too busy or too distracted to share your feelings. Yeah. To share how you feel and to share your wants and desires.
Absolutely. That's really, really important. Just making sure that, again, going back to these things, I'm not built like that. I'm not, this is helping you to understand your spouse in the way that they are. If they have any of these unhealthy love styles, you don't want to have, these things kind of lingering out there and then not having them addressed if it's a consistent type of behavior. Because again, if you have children, you have family, it definitely makes you project those things onto those children,
Mm-hmm.
and they become a replica of that, and they can
Right.
grow up and be that. And not only that, they can relate to one another, their siblings, and relate to you in those same ways. For example, we're going into the next one, and it's the controller and the victim. And those could have been two separate things, but it's really two sides of the same coin.
Mm-hmm.
It's two sides of the same coin. Kids raised in chaotic homes, homes that have a lot of just stuff happening, perhaps abuse or,
Mm-hmm.
you know, dangerous situations, or people that just were never emotionally available to them.
Mm-hmm.
They may become the controllers or victims.
Mm-hmm.
These are very important because this is how other people, because this kind of does fall in kind of certain, it can be verbal abuse, but it could also be physical,
Mm-hmm.
abusive type of situations. And I like even dealing with a lot of people in the church. Sometimes people in the church are abusive. Just because somebody in the church doesn't mean that they are just all of a sudden perfect. They're not. That's why they're in the church. They realize that they weren't one day. You know what I'm saying? Or they're realizing that they're not, and they become, they become Christians and believers, but we're still in work in progress. God is still working on us. And a lot of times people will be really just combative at home and just rough acting and just, talking to people crazy and just not being respectful.
Right.
All of those kind of things that can be a controller or the person that's always a victim. Somebody always doing something to them. Always.
Yeah. And then, how that affects your relationship and your marriage or your home is that it doesn't give you a good model of a healthy relationship. So even if you are doing that, there's a situation that I observed where, we were communicating with other adults in the way that they were treating their adult kids, a way that they would speak to them and interact with them. You could see that it had an effect on them that was sort of unhealthy. And then, if they sometimes were shut down, and then the parents were saying, well, why don't you interact with me? Well, because you have, you made them a victim. You've been controlling, and they don't want to interact with you. And unfortunately, if they don't get that together, that child or that young adult can take that into their next relationship.
That's
To take those attitudes and take those skills that are not positive even into marriage. And so you want to make sure that you can heal from those uncomfortable injuries that you may have experienced as a child.
Because having a controlling spirit is it's unhealthy, but it may seem more subtle, and it may seem like, oh, that's not a big deal. You know what I'm saying? But God had to deal with me being controlling, and not controlling like I was controlling my husband or anything like that. But I wanted to make sure I controlled every aspect of like my children's lives when they were little, making sure I controlled the outcome of everything. And sometimes when you feel like you don't have control as a child, when you grow up, you feel like, okay, I'm not going to be in a situation where I am not controlled. I control everything. I make all the rules.
Right.
I'm the boss of everything and everybody. You know what I'm saying? And they're mild, maybe milder forms, but trust and trusting in God says I don't control anything.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I don't control stuff. And I had to get to a place where God dealt with me about me wanting to control the outcomes of everything, control the choices, making sure they make the right choices. Okay, I'm not going to let them go to this school because I don't want them to have this kind of friends, and I don't want them, they can't do this. My kids never spent the night on nobody's house. Okay. No one's ever. And when they had a sleepover thing with their school and or their team, and they really wanted to be a part of that, guess who also was at the sleepover? I was, and I was the person that everybody slept in the room with. Okay, I had to control it all. I always wanted to control everything, but I put it under the guise of protection, and sometimes it was protecting, but a lot of times it was controlling. It was controlling. And so, God, and years ago, God dealt with me. He's like, you're going to be in control of everything, or you're going to let me be in control of it. But he said, but I can handle it much better than you can. So I definitely had to let God deal with me with that controlling. But some people, it's to the 10th power. You know what I'm saying? That spirit of control.
Mhm.
So
That's good. That's good. So the last one, and we're not long tonight, but hopefully this is helping you. And as always, if you guys are on Instagram, we see those likes. Keep waving at us. We appreciate it. And if you're on Facebook, we appreciate your comments and YouTube. The last one is sort of weird because it's called a secure connection. So you would think that would be actually something positive, but what does that mean? A secure connection.
Well,
Go ahead. Well, it means something that was missed out.
Yeah.
Something in your childhood or in a previous relationship, you may have missed out
on being secure and being secure and having a secure connection. So, a secure connection is it's kind of a version of control, but you want to it's kind of a forced connection. But having a secure connector is being trying to be more like Jesus. You know what I'm saying? Being more like Christ. But you try to force a secure connection. That again is another part of trying to control a situation that you couldn't control growing up. Trying to make sure that you spend all your time with your spouse. That you got to know everything that person is doing. You got to be a part of everything that person is doing. But Christ is the secure connector. He makes everything secure, and he can make the weaknesses your strengths, and he can come in and make things connected in the proper way. But the secure connection that a person that is trying to do on their own, again, that's a form again of control, trying to make sure that things are connected, and they force the connection.
Right. And, it's a little bit different than what we usually talk about. And the reason this is important is because, these type of love styles that may be hurtful or harmful or maybe be a hindrance to your marriage, to your relationship, it's important to discuss them so that you can grow, so that if you understand what your challenges may be, you're able to grow. And then also if you are the person that your spouse is dealing with, or you're dealing with a spouse that may be excessive in this area, it also will teach you to have some patience and grace to help them repair their hurts. Absolutely. To repair what may have happened in the past. A lot of times, even in relationships, we want things to happen quickly. We want that pain or whatever, that hurt or whatever, to go away, and then we don't give grace in the healing.
Absolutely.
And that's what a secure connection is. Even though you're seeking it, you also need to be able to have some grace and some patience, kindness and love when dealing in those areas, so that your partner, that your spouse, your children or whatever, if they have these deficiencies, they can grow. They can heal, and a lot of times that should be a characteristic that we have, because Christ waited on us a long time, right? He did. And so we should be Christ-like and be able to give that same type of grace and love to our spouses and our children and our whole family and our household.
That's right. That is so very true. So again, we wanted to just share with you quickly tonight. I haven't even made dinner. Oh my gosh. But share with you quickly tonight some things that are unhealthy as far as relationships, and saying I'm not built like that can be a whole bunch of different things. A whole bunch of different differences that you have with your spouse. And the biggest thing and the cuspis of all of this and the culmination of all of it, I should say, is bringing those differences in your relationship together and being respectful of where a person has come from and being respectful of that. And then if there's places where your spouse needs healing in the way that they love and the way that they relate, to be to have that grace and patience that you talked about, but also to have the wisdom to ask open-ended questions so that you can get to the healthy part. And get through like some secrets. Like you can only have a certain amount of intimacy in your relationship. If your relationship, you still have big secrets from your spouse. True. It's hard. You know what I'm saying? You got some, and then sometimes you may just that's just going to be your companion. and you're confidant to a certain extent, but there's certain things that they're just not going to know about you. You know what I'm saying? And in some instances, that's okay.
It's good. It's okay, but it's also, you know, in some instances it's better when you have a transparent relationship. It is so much better because even when we counsel people that are dealing with stuff, when you are able to tell the truth, to open up, to not be vulnerable, because you know, nobody wants to be vulnerable, but when you are open and completely honest with your spouse, it gives both of you a chance to heal, but it also gives you a chance to show that I trust you enough to show you my weakest point.
Yeah.
And that's one thing, even with us, you know, it's like, why this is my ride and die. She knows my weakest point. She knows when I cry, when I'm angry, when I'm sad, you know, when I'm happy, what makes me tick, all those things that you don't see on camera, that you don't see because you're not in the home. And when I have that relationship, or we're able to have that, then I know that I don't have to worry about being vulnerable because you won't judge.
Right.
You'll love.
Right.
And that's the thing. A lot of us will judge and not love.
Yeah.
But when you can love and not judge, then that makes your relationship so much stronger and so much better. And it builds foundations so that if you do make a mistake or you have issues, you know that nobody's going to run, nobody's going to give up. We're going to solve it and go forward.
Absolutely. And like you say, grow and grow closer together and grow and be more like Christ. And that's the end game. That is what we desire to do. So
that's good. Yeah. I saw it. I don't know if we addressed it twice that God is the secure connection.
Christ is Christ is the secure connector. You know, when you put Christ in the middle, I think you made an analogy. This was probably a year or two ago, but you made the analogy of the triangle. And I don't know, I think Christ was the base or whatever, and then in the man and the woman coming together, that's, you know, that's God in the middle. You know, he's the secure, Jesus in the middle is the secure connector.
That's very true. That's very true. So we appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. You know, we hope that this has been helpful to you. I always shout out to our Instagram people following us on Instagram. And as always, if they can bring it up, you can follow us at Wattsup Entertainment on Instagram. Yeah. And then you can follow us at Wattsup Entertainment on Facebook. Yeah. And then we are Wattsup Video. There we are on YouTube. Yeah. So we appreciate you guys tuning in. Once again, share and like this. Please encourage somebody to watch it again. And we always love hearing from you. Shout out to our moderator, Frederick Watts. He did an excellent job freeing us up. Yay. So we hope that you have enjoyed this, and we will see you next week, 9:00 Eastern Standard Time on Mondays. And this has been Frederick and Jean Watts. And this is Love in 60 Seconds. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, guys, we have to wrap it up this evening. We really hope that you've enjoyed our conversation.
Yes, this conversation has been amazing, and we want you to tune in again next time so that we can discuss more of these amazing topics and these topics of interest. Then don't forget to DM us, contact us, reach out to us, and we will definitely respond back.
This has been Love in 60 Seconds. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
All right. Good night, everybody.
60 seconds.